Good day, everyone. This is John here from 3DCoat Tutorials, and welcome to this channel. So with this tutorial, I'll be going over how to basically make models and kind of the thought process between, sub D, smoothing, and how to kind of work around some of those things on your basic primitive shapes. So here we go. So we're going to go into poly modeling, select it, and you're going to come up with your screen here. And I'm going to make sure that this is set up properly. So if I go to my front view, and we can start adding in some things, but we want to make sure that this is in the right mode, right? So we select that. And now if we go around, we can go back over here and see these different opportunities here to kind of select a lot of different things. So this first section is add geometry. And I'm going to be basically focusing on either 3D primitives or 2D primitives. And we're going to start off with 3D primitives just to get some really good understanding. So we're going to start with that. So first thing you do, you got these different shapes that are above here. These are your basic primitives that come with 3DCoat, and we can hit OK. And we can zoom in by just using your right mouse button. Now, just so you understand my controls here, if I use left, it's going to be red. If I use right on my mouse, it's going to be green. And if I type anything, it's going to be down here below, so you can see my keys right down below here. Okay, so when you first start off with a square, basically, it's going to be the opportunity here to talk about squares. So it's going to come up with this different shape. You can actually pull this out, do whatever you want. You could make them more of a rectangle, and you could add more details to this as you want. So to give you some understanding here, you got this tool options, right? If you want to add this to the scene, you have to have this on add and apply. If you select this down, you can subtract objects from an object. That's kind of like booleans. You can intersect or you can split objects. So kind of keep that in mind. You can do this up front with these objects. However, I don't really recommend it too much in 3DCoat because when you actually boolean something, you cause a lot of extra modeling cuts and stuff into something. I mean, one good thing is you don't have to go back and redo, triangles and stuff because it does it for you. However, sometimes you don't want those triangles up front. So I don't recommend doing a lot of boolean in this program just because of those situations. Now, I do recommend it, of course, in voxel mode, but not in this mode. Okay, so let's get started. So when you have your object here, even though it's not really, applied yet, you can move this around by just using the arrows. You have like a box here, which this is kind of like helps you squish it or stretch it. And you have your arrow here, which actually helps you move it. And you also have the rotation modes here that help rotate. So you got all these controls within this box. Now, just for understanding here, I'm going to kind of move this over to the side because I want to make more than one object to give you some clarity. So I'm going to move this over here. And in here, you'll see underneath the actual 3D primitives, you got these different divisions, and you also have this thing called uniform division. Now, one thing I do recommend is if you want to control what you're creating, you can take this off. You want everything uniform, then click it on, of course. So everything is perfectly, boxed. Everything is the same dimensions. It's all completely what it needs to be, right? So if I take this off and I bring this down to 0, you can go just basically with like 6 polys here. It's very small. And if I go back to uniform, it kind of goes right back to where it was at 24. So again, depends what you want, right? And if I want more than this polys here, I can actually add in more here and increase it and create my form just like that. If you want specifically a shape like that, then that's great. And then you can add it and all these actual polygons are created, right? So that's one option. The other option is taking this off and, basically bringing this all back down to 0. And then this last one here is 0, now back to 6, right? So these are different ways to do stuff. So we can either make the shape ahead of time with the uniform, or we can go in and also use a sub D or not. It depends on what you want. So we could also just do like a NURBS object where you just have some areas that are very smooth and beveled, and they don't have a lot of polys. And again, I don't recommend that unless it's going to be a stagnant object or not being deformed. And then that's fine, especially in an animation. But if you're trying to make a game asset, something that might squish or something that might deform, It is great to always make sure that your objects are very, quad-like, and you can do sub-Ds on these things to make it more detailed. And it's just a good way to go. And also, if you're selling your objects too, it's a good way to go to have a quad-based shape. So, all right, so I'm going to show you different ways to kind of, create different forms here. So I'm going to start off with just a basic box and apply it. And now that I've got this, what great thing about this program is it continues to keep the same shape, same place, and you can continue to work with it, right? So I'm going to bring another one here. This time I'm going to use the uniform division, just like it is. And I'm going to bring this all back down to where it was before, which was at basically, I'm going to go down to right here and bring it down to 0. And with this on, if I go back to, so you can do that too, you don't have to take the uniform off, but you can always just bring that to 0, or you can bring it up to 1. It's kind of like they showed here when you first start up with these many sections, 24. So we can go with that to apply, add. Right, we'll continue with this. We're going to bring this one out again. And this time I'm going to take away that opportunity and kind of just, use my own setup. So I'm going to take this off again. And this is like the basic form, right? Well, actually, you know what? For this one, I'll go ahead and add more just to give some clarity. So let's go 6 again, and 6, and 6. So kind of like we just had, and apply. Okay. So let's continue now, and this time I'm not going to use this at all. I'm going to bring these all back down to 0, just like that. And now this time I'm going to make sure that I don't have this on. I'm going to hit apply. And I start off just like this one, right? But this time I'm going to go in and actually add some detail to this. So what do I mean by that? So I can go in here and kind of select this object by going to selection mode. And we can go here and select it. But one thing I want to do here is I want to make sure that I kind of, make this into its own polygroup. So if I select it here, I can create a new one. And I can go here, and then I'm just going to push this over to this polygroup. So these are all on that polygroup. This is on this polygroup. So this is a great way to layer your objects. All right, so now that I'm here, what can we do with this? So I can go now in and start adding some stuff to this object, which is kind of really cool. So under tweaks, we can add like split rings. And this is a great way to kind of just add, detail. So if you want to zoom in a little bit, you can just kind of, use your right mouse button. And I could kind of bring this up to the edge here and edge here. And what I'm doing here is I'm creating the extra polys that I want, but controlled, right? Not uncontrolled. And before, with the other way, it's kind of controlled. So here, I'm doing uncontrolled. And let's just say I want to do one over here and one over here. And the idea of this is now I have a very controlled box. Okay. So a couple of things to think about here is this is really easy now to do. And if I want to go in and kind of see what I mean by, making these things smooth now and adding more detail to this, you can go in and start working that with going down to almost to the bottom here. You got an entire mesh is kind of what we're looking at here. The only thing about this is that you kind of need to go in and adjust things. But since these are all in a separate polygroups, you make sure this is right? So if I take this off, all 3 of those. So if I use these as this an example, and I want to go in and actually sub-D this, it's a little different in 3DCoat. Instead of subdivision itself, you can actually do this with subdivision. What it does is adds a bunch of detail to each of these. So if I select one of them, so let's go back to selection mode first. I'll show you kind of what I mean by that. So if I select this, for instance, go to object mode, selection, select it. And once you select it, if you go back down to the bottom here, entire mode, entire mesh, you're going to go in now and just add subdivision, right? If I do that, it breaks it up and kind of divides it, just like we did before, right? We can continue to do that more and more, and it becomes similar to what we already had, right? So there's different ways to make this object. I'm going to go back to where it was. Now, if I go in here, like I said, normally it's like subdivision on other programs like Blender or stuff like that, and it's completed, like that, and you have adding, subdivision to the object as well. So subdivide is a little different. So in here, smooth is like the subdivide. or it's kind of like the actual patch or sub patch. So if I do smooth here, you see how everything becomes like rounded, and it does all three of them because they're all in the same layer. So it's taken each of these objects, which is kind of difficult to understand because I got only one selected, right? You think that would only, support that, but it's taking your whole object. So the only way to get around that is to take these other ones and kind of create your own, face here and just bring them over to that one. So if here, I can just bring it to there, right? And here, I could add another one. And I can go here and just add it there. This arrow adds them to that layer. So if I go in here now, I can see how this is going to hide each one of these. And they're all in different layers, right? So if I want to go in here, and if I go back to that smooth, you see how it creates a sphere. Because of the amount of polys here, it's causing it to be very kind of squarish, kind of rounded, but not very smooth, right? So now if I go in here and do the same thing, smooth, it becomes more of a blocky, but a little bit more detail. And then here, again, smooth, and it becomes more of a rounded box. It just depends on how much detail you put, right? So this gives you a lot of control and not a lot of control. So kind of think about these things when you create this stuff. So now in here, the way I created this one, if I hit that smooth, it's very, smooth and clean and very detailed. And it just has a lot better form than these. And again, I use a lot less faces to make this. So kind of think about these things as you create this stuff. And the reasons why you do this is to make, great shapes. So that's kind of what the smooth and all this is about. The idea, though, is to start off low and create shapes and then add in your additional detail. And to create, like, for instance, to create a nice edge and forms, you add detail closer to the edge where you want things to kind of get tight. If you have a separation between areas, it becomes very fluid and very rounded. So just some things to think about while you're creating this stuff. Okay, so that's that. And okay, so I'm going to go ahead and now and do a quick, creation of like a sci-fi object, and yeah, continue to watch it and we'll create something fun here. Okay, so basically I'm going to go ahead and now get rid of these, and we're going to start from scratch. And we can select it by just getting rid of these, sections here. We can just select each one, delete them, and start over, basically. Okay, so we're completely done. I want to reset the axis so it's exactly at the 0. So again, reset axis. We could also reset it here. All right, so let's start creating some shapes and have some fun with this. So we're going to start off with basically the 3D primitives. We select this here. We got a box, right? And I'm going to zoom in a little bit to see what I'm doing. I want this to be more of a kind of a, I guess, a rectangle. So we're going to go over here and kind of just squish this over, kind of like that. I want this to be like squished. So about right there. And again, I kind of want to make sure that I have enough division here. It's helpful when you have enough. I'm thinking that I would want to get at least division-wise. Let's just look at this. I'm going to break this up a little bit. Let's go ahead and take this uniform off. And we're going to add in a little bit more here. So like 4 and not there. I'm going to go with the Z. So something like this. I think this will give us a lot of, basically it's half of this, right? If we do the double, it's now 8 instead of 4. So you kind of got enough there. I think it also would be good to have it kind of centered. So if you look at the top of this, we want to make sure that this is kind of like a line down the center and a line down this center, because that will help us with the division a little easier. So if I go back 1 there, instead of 4, we'll go 5. And here we'll go with like 9. So we got 5 on this side, 5 on that side. So it's real similar. It's exactly squared off that way. Okay. And yeah, that looks good. So let's go ahead and apply. All right, so I re-recorded part of this, so it might look a little differently for the end result, but just want to give you a better, tutorial to show you kind of the easiest ways to kind of get around this kind of stuff. So, okay, so we got the object here, and we did the actual subdivisions and stuff on this. We did like basically 10 on the one side and 5 on the other side, which gives you 6 and 10, but I think it was actually 9 instead of 10. And it gives you one extra one, so just keep that in mind. So anyway, so here we go. So the best way to kind of go around this is to, first of all, create your actual edges to control this stuff. And that way we don't have to go back later on. And it just makes things a lot easier. So what I mean by that is we're going to go in here and kind of select some things. And we're going to go with the actual faces here. And I'm going to go around and get each of these little corners here. And the same thing on the other side. Exact same thing. Just going around, getting each of these corners. And the reason I'm doing that is to kind of help control this a little bit easier. So if I delete this now I have a really easy method to work this. Now I'm going to go back now into the section of the tweaks section, and we're going to use the split rings. And now in here, normally it's set up with 1. If you got more than that, just roll your mouse and you can get down to 1. So I'm going to kind of just eye this the best I can. I'm going to go close to the edge here. And this is going to be my control section here. And then same thing over here. So about the same distance, right? And the same distance over here. Keep them pretty much all similar. That way it kind of lines up perfectly. So let's do this again. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Now, if you want to go to the top view, it might be easier to see this. So you get the exact kind of right spacing. So about right there. And then again, we can rotate this around. And do the same thing here. Again, I rotated this by accident, so just keep that in mind. So you can go to bottom on this one, just to make it easier. Right there. Move this over a little bit. And right about there. Okay, cool. So we got that all covered up now. That makes it easier. And all right, let's continue. So the next step is creating this disk here, which is this. And you guys don't have this, of course, but I'm going to use this to kind of give myself a good, understanding of what we're creating here. And you see, it's kind of like between all these like sections here. All right, so we're going to now create an actual disk here, and this will be much easier once we do this. So we're going to go ahead and we can either do a 2D or a 3D, whatever we prefer. We can do 2D if we want and do a simple disk. So if we did this, we could do something like this. However, if we want it to be like a hole in the section, we could do that as well. I personally, I would go with just the actual 3D. So since we're working in 3D, let's just go with the disk. And we're going to create, basically on this one, we're going to take this off again, uniform. And we're going to take all these off, put them back to 0. So 0, 0. And the sides, we're going to go up to like 12. Just like that. See how it's kind of like you got one centered here, and this is not centered, but that's okay. Actually, we can maybe bring that up. Actually, that's 10. Let's go at 12. See, now we got one on each corner. We kind of do this in division so we can control a little bit better. All right, cool. And we can move this over here, kind of like this. I'm going to go kind of like in the center here. Now, I did this earlier, it's just for reference, but I'm going to kind of get myself placed here. So it's a lot bigger than what I had before, but I'm going to bring this over here a little bit more. And this is just for my own reference. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit, and we're going to scale this down now. So we can go with the radius here and bring it down. So we're going to go right about there. Okay. And that looks good. And we can hide this other part of it for reference. All right, cool. So we got this kind of worked out. Now, what we can do here is we can rotate this around way too big, of course. We're going to just come through here and just go to the side, right? And I'm going to go ahead and bring this all the way down until I actually hit the flat part of this. And let me see how that's going to look. So right to the edge of that line. So it's perfectly aligned. Okay. And yeah, that looks good right there. And we can actually now go to a new one. This will be disk. And we'll make this number 2, since I did this earlier. And we can now apply just like that. All right, cool. So we got these all kind of figured out. And we have that now in this shape. Now, what I need to do is now just go to the top view and kind of work this out. So what I actually need to do is I need to get rid of some of these actual faces, because again, they're going to cause a problem. So just real simply, we're going to go to select mode, and I'm going to start selecting these faces. So each one of these, which it affects this, circle. I'm going to get this one too, because it just makes more sense to get rid of the ones that are kind of all being affected here. So let's delete those, right? All right, cool. And go back to this as well. We could rotate this around, and these can also be deleted. Okay, delete those. Perfect. All right, so we got that resolved, and we got everything else resolved. So what are we going to do now? So a good way is to just hide the disk for now. And we kind of want to just get this disk and connect it to these things. And a way to do that is we can start actually adding in this detail around. It's not a big deal. All right, so one thing we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and create a duplication of this object here. So let's go ahead and we can duplicate this. So let's do a duplication. And I'm going to also hide, bring this one over here to the very top. And I'm going to hide that one. And I'm going to go in now and just kind of, use this to help me out. So I'm going to hide the start over section. And basically right now I got everything selected, and I want to go in and just deselect this top piece, right? So I'm going to take this, I'm going to use the control key and just take that and get rid of it. So basically hit it, and now everything else not hid, but I actually got the other ones all selected except for the top one, of course. And now I can just delete those, and now I got one big, basically, polygon. So what I need to do with this now is I need to add this over to this. Let me just unhide this. I'm going to go here, right? Since it's selected now, I can move this over to here. Okay. So now if I hide this or hide this, there's nothing there, right? So we can get rid of this now, and we can stay with this. All right, so a few more things that I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and select this face, and I'm going to inset it just to make this a little easier for future. So inset this thing, just like we did with the outer area. We kind of want to have a control method. So let's go ahead and go to inset right here, and it's under selected. So inset, and I'm good with that. Just one quick, easy, polygon there. And we can form this out in a little bit. All right, so what can we do here? We can start connecting all this stuff, make it a little easier by just using some of these faces. Now, a couple things I need to do is I need to go in and kind of just modify a bunch of these edges here. So let's do that first. So go back to the section that says selection, and we're going to select the edge here. And I'm going to select each of these edges with the shift key now. Bring this over, rotate it. Again, same thing here, and same thing here. So now we've got all these selected. We're going to go down to the section that says selected and bevel. And here we're going to actually bring this up quite a bit, so almost like 5. And we'll go with maybe, let's go with like 4. Tab. And I'm going to bring out a couple of these actual things here. So we're going to do like 3, just like that. Okay, and hit OK. So now we got a nice rotated edge on each of these. All right, so we're going to start going through and start connecting everything again and just start working this stuff. It's just much easier this way. Now what I can do here to make it a little bit easier is I could select these edges here, and we can go to the top view and see now that I got them selected over here. I can go ahead and use the extrude here as well. All right, so we're going to now select the Smart Extrude underneath the Add Geometry. So right here. And I want to move this, basically to the side. So how do we do this? So we can go in here and kind of just go to the top and see if that would be easy enough to do. Let's just go ahead and move it a little bit over. Some reason I deselected it. So again, we still got it selected now. And I'm going to move this inward or up, whichever. Let's go to the side now, to the right. And we're going to take these back, these points down. So first of all, let's just do this. Now that I got this kind of, brought out, I'm going to go ahead and select now the actual points. So these could be selected and these as well. So let's go ahead and hit the Shift key. And we've got all four of those selected, right? And we can go back to the top view. And we can move these inward, kind of like this, right? Kind of get close to that edge. See how it's kind of lining up here? That's kind of what we want right there. Okay, cool. Now we could take these two here. This is just a simple way to do it. We can go to the right now, and we can move these completely down to the point where they're exactly on top. So let's reset axis, and we're going to bring this down until it's flat. See that right there? All right, cool. So now we got a nice flat, section there. And now we can also go and just kind of, clean this up a little bit. So again, we're selecting these points. I'm going to bring this down a little bit less. Don't want it to over select anything. So let's just do this, shift this, and now we can just bring this inward, kind of like that. Let's go back to the top. And you see that it is actually a little bit off here, and we can just use this to help maneuver this back into place. And we can also expand it just a little bit. See, it's exactly centered, which is what we want. And again, we might need to adjust this a little bit more. Just kind of get it to where it kind of looks like it belongs, right? Cool. All right, so that's that. So we're going to do this on all those sections, the same exact routine. And I'm going to create a quad here. So this is a real easy way to do this. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. I'm going to bring this out. I'm going to select this one here, and then select this one here. Okay. We can escape. Again, quad. Same thing. We'll bring this out up to here. So make sure it clicks, and then here. Now, if you got it done right, it'll be the exact same color as what you have. If it's not, then we got a problem. So we can go back and see what that looks like, right? And everything's kind of flat here. This is a little high, so we can fix that. So let's just select real simply. We're going to select these points that are up high and just bring those down. First, we're going to reset axis. And again, when I adjusted it, it must have got a little bit tweaked. So we're going to get this kind of lined up into the section so it's exactly lined up. There we go. And that's looking really good. And a good way to do this now is just selecting these points, right? So we can go in here. And now the easy way to do this is just get the brush. So I'm going to go ahead and select all these outer ones. We want to deselect this one with the control key. All right. And now we can go in here and just do our fill. And what that does, it helps you kind of create 4-point polygons. And I don't want this, but that's okay. What I could do now is go in here and just kind of do the same thing here. I want to take this and kind of just break this up. So I'm going to add split. I'm going to take this here and just kind of go to the center of this. So I'm going to try to get close to the center. Now, a good way to do this is maybe go to the top view. So you kind of get a better, perfection on the actual center of this. So we'll go right about here, right? And now we can escape. Cool. Now we can go in and just select this one. So select it, poly, and we can delete this, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and start working this. So we can do like 4-point polys. So we're going to do a quad. So let's just do this here and here. There's the poly. And then we can do the same thing here. Bring this out here, here, and a poly. Okay. So I'm going to do this on the other one as well in a little bit. But first of all, and again, you're just going to follow the same method. I want to do redundancy, so I'll do a fast forward of that. And same with the bottoms. But before we do that, I'm going to start working this now. And this is a little bit more complicated because you've got a lot of different forms here. And what we can do here now is just start using this to help, make the connections. All right. So we got the still on quads. We're going to start using this to help us out. So we're going to come over here, select it, and connect. Now that everything's connected, it's perfectly aligned. So same thing here, connect, connect. Perfect. We can go from here. Let's just do this to here and to here. All right. Same thing here. Now that caused a problem, so let's not do that. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to bring this up just like we just did. So it's all the same on both sides. All right. And we could do the same thing here. Let's just bring this up. I'm going to go here and here. Same thing here. Over here and here. And now we're getting closer to getting this working. So I'm going to go ahead and go with more of a 4-point here. So let's just go here and here. And now we have a 3. That's okay. We can also do this and this one. And see, it's the same exact setup. It makes it look nice that way. Now I can go in and just do the same thing. Let's just do this. Bring this out, and we can go here and just hit it twice. Okay? Same thing here. If you don't hit it twice, then it causes it not to be connected properly. So 1, 2, there we go. And yes, we do have a couple 3-point polys, but that's okay. All right, so what do we do now? So we also need to do some closures here. And a good way to do that is to kind of just use this to help us out. So again, we're going to continue to form some of these 4-point polys. So this way we have a better control of what we're doing. Same thing here. Same thing here. It's just a real easy way to kind of form these things. So we're going to go here. And here, the hardest part is just getting, these things, connected to the circle. So that way we get a perfect, method here. So it comes out perfectly this way. Okay, so there's that. And now that we've done this, we can start using this to kind of help us close this space off. Okay, so how do we do that? So we're going to go over to the side. And I'm going to use the point selection. So go to select, points. And I'm going to move this over a little bit more. I'm going to bring this down just like that. I'm going to deselect these over here, all the way here. And I'm going to deselect these here. And we can go back in here and just zoom out a little bit. We can also get rid of this one. And we just want the ones that are in the open area. Okay? So let's go ahead and go R-fill and just go with it. So it kind of helped us create all these, perfect forms. And now we can go back to the top view here and use this to kind of help us, just do a little bit better job in cleaning this up a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and select these. All right, so let's continue. I'm going to bring this opacity up a little bit because it helps see a little bit better, right? So there we go. So we're going to take these points now, kind of just redirect them. So I could use the arrows here and kind of just get this lined up properly. Again, as long as I don't go on the other axis, we're fine. This way it'll be nice and clean. And again, I just want these similar in the way of spacing. And go here as well. As long as you got very similar, it will be that much nicer. So something like that. And we can also do this one here. Bring it over a little bit here, and then bring it over a little bit here. And this way we got a nice form. This is a little bit off still. Bring this down. Kind of like that. And this is pretty similar. Okay, it's a little bit skinnier than this side, but that's okay. So there you go. That's pretty much the easiness of this. And we're going to go back now and do the same thing on this one. I'm going to go ahead and record this again, or continue recording this, because these are complicated shapes. So again, we're going to do the same thing that we just did a minute ago. I'm going to go back to the right view. So right view, just like this, bring it down. Selection mode, points, right here. Bring this over. Alt, bring it down. Now, if you don't have this right, we can go over to the left view. Let's just do left view. And we can zoom out a little bit, and let's see where we're at. Okay, right here on this side. So go to left view. We're going to select points again, and we're going to do something like this. Okay. So it selected this one, which I don't need. For some reason, it didn't select these other ones, but that's okay. So we can zoom in a little bit and start selecting these. So we can actually go back here and do the actual brush selection. So shift, 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 and shift, and shift. So we got them all selected now. Same process, R-fill, and we can go in there and just make sure it goes to the top, right? There we go. Easy enough, right? So we can go down to the top view. And again, realign this stuff as we need. So go ahead and select each of these points. And we're going to move them. So let's just do this. Bring it down. We just want this one. So bring it down. Again, we want this to be kind of similar to this other side. And I think this one here. And yeah, again, like I said, this is going to be a little thinner here, but that's okay. We're going to bring this down here and this over here. Kind of like that. All right, cool. And now let's do the other side here. And again, same thing. We're going to do the same thing that we just did. We're going to take these edges like we did last time. We're going to take each of these edges and just create the extra form. So we can just use the Smart Extrude again. It's a little tricky, right? This end right here, and just extrude them up. You got to make sure you hit that end section, just like that. All right, now back to top view, and we can zoom out and bring it over. And again, you can't really see it because it's there. And we're going to go to the Move tool, select. Now, if it's not selected for some reason, we can go back in and just select it, right, with the points. And go back to the top view, like this. And again, we're perfectly centered here. Again, I'm just going to move this over. And then we're going to go back to the actual side view here. And we're going to bring this in all the way up to the edge here. Just like that. And Even though we didn't do that side, we did the other side. Let's just go back over here. And there we go. Let me just go around. All right, so let's see how this is looking with the new form that we just did. A good way to do that is just go to the right view and just make sure that everything is kind of lining up here. And it's flat, you know. So we can actually use the Alt key here to kind of move this in and down. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we got here. So if I bring this up, you see kind of how it's going up. You want those points to be exactly right at the base of this, right? All right, cool. Even though it's not the right side, it doesn't really matter because I'm controlling this one over here. All right, so let's go back to the top view, and we can kind of now maneuver this stuff. So one nice thing is here is we would select this one and this one. I'm going to go ahead and roll the mouse here just so I can control these two. And then I'm going to shrink these in a little bit. Actually, Control Z. I need to get the right thing here, the square. Bring this inward. And then down. Because this way it's just going to be, you know, much cleaner. I think something like that. Maybe a little bit farther out like that. All right, cool. Now we can go and do the quads. And same thing. We'll go on ahead and just start using this to kind of help us create the quad. Again, this is real easy to do. Like that. All right, and now we can go in and go ahead and select. We can actually just go and select all these lines, right? If we do the Alt key here, actually escape, I'm going to go to selection mode, and we're going to use the edge tool. This is just another easy way to do this. We select all that around there, and we also select this one, and then we can select points. And now everything's selected, and again, we're going to do the R fill. So go to R fill, and we can get this right here where you need it, just like that. Again, top view, just like that. Bring this over a little bit, and we can go in now and use the split. So again, use this here, and we're going to go in about, let's say somewhere about here, right? And then we can escape. And then we can get rid of that face again, like we did before. So select it, like that, and delete it. And now we can just go in and just create these 4-point patches. So quad. Bring it over, just like that, and like that. Same thing here. This, like this. Okay, cool. All right, so that is the top, and I'm going to go ahead and do this quickly, do this with the video. So if you want to follow along, that's fine. And I'm going to fast forward this part here. All right, so we got the actual, all that detail cleaned up now, and yeah. So let's go ahead and just work this as we go. So one thing we could do, we could select the actual face here, right? I'm gonna make this just a little bit bigger because I wanted to have an extrusion area. So how do we do this? We select it, right? And if, let's just say I want to scale this up, but I want to also expand this to get more control. And one way you could do that is go to selected and you could hit the expand here. And that's real simple, right? To select that. Then we just pull this out a little bit and bring it up. And there we go. So that's pretty much the easiness of this. Now we can go in here now, select this, and I'm going to bring this down. So I'm going to go to the side here and make sure I have this selected, and I'm going to bring it straight down, just like that. All right, so now that we've gotten this selected, we can actually go in and just add in some detail to this. So let's go again to the selection mode. And I'm going to add in some very light detail to this just to make it clean. So I'm going to select this edge, or both edges. So I'm going to hit the Alt key, double click. We can't do that, right? Because we've got to select this and go to edges, right? And then we can go here and select the Alt key and then double click. There we go. So now we got these both done. We'll go down to the actual selected section and we'll go into bevel. So the bevel is a little bit too aggressive here, so we'll bring this down. When it is like really gray like that, it's because it just went too far. We can actually use the Alt key to kind of see what we're doing here. Again, I don't want too many polys here, so I'm just going to go with 2. Just to help control this edge to make it look really nice. All right, cool. And hit OK. There we go. So now that we've done this, when I go in and add some more detail here, I'm going to also kind of break this up a little bit. So let's do that now. And we're going to go back up to the edge here where it says the actual tweak under split rings. And we can do this. Let's roll it down to 1. And again, I'm going to go to the right view. I'm going to just kind of make sure that this is all kind of aligned. So here and here. This would give us a nice smooth edge. Now, you see that some of this stuff is a little bit off. So a good way to, again, go back to the right view. See here, we got some issues with some of this stuff, and it won't look as nice if we don't fix it. So select it. Use the actual selection tool here. So it's an easy way to do that. So let's go back to the side view. This is kind of in our way. Right view. So what can we do to make sure everything is completely flat, right? We could just use the point tool, select all the way down. Let's go right over here, right to about there. I don't want this inner line done, just those outer lines. Okay, perfect. Now we could go in and just kind of just bring this all together into the center, right? That's simple. Okay. So I think everything is perfectly aligned now. I think the problem that we might have is that this is going to be affected a little bit because I made them straight and they weren't supposed to be straight. So Control Z. I'm going to go back a couple. Again, these are things that you got to kind of, think about when you're doing this stuff, is that you might have some issues if we don't think about this stuff up front. So let's go ahead and use the Alt key here, zoom out. I got everything selected here, but I want to now go to the top view. I'm going to move this over just a little bit, and I want to deselect these things at the center, right? So let's do that. So we're going to use the Control key now. And I'm going to bring my mouse over here, and just like that, start using it to change these things. Real simple, right? Just go in and deselect everything. It's out of your way. This way I don't, affect the bevel because I don't want to affect the bevel no matter what I do. So after doing all this work, you don't want to have to go backwards. So, all right, there we go. So now those are all deselected. We can go back in here onto the right view. Perfect. And now we can use this to kind of, make sure that everything's aligned. So bring this down, get it right close to the center here. Just like that. And then we can deselect. All right, so a good way to test this is actually use the smooth and see how this is going to look. So go down to the bottom, entire mesh, sorry, and we can hit the smooth and see how that looks. Yeah, that looks really nice. The bottom looks really nice. Everything is aligned. Yeah, that's pretty much, that is the easiest way to do this. And okay, let's continue to build this out. All right, so I'm going to go in and kind of do some more work on this. I want to kind of get rid of the center thing here, right? Because there's no reason for this extra amount of faces. So if I select this, I can just delete that. And there we go. So that's nice and clean now. Select the whole thing, go to lines, and then within here, we're going to go to the front view, or right view. And we can deselect some things. So let's just go ahead and do the control key here. And we're going to go up to about there and deselect. Same thing here. Control, deselect. One thing we got to make sure is this center is completely deselected. So let's go back to the top view. Again, bring this over. We're going to go somewhere in the middle here. Use the control key and deselect. Okay, cool. So now we got all this done. We can actually go in here, just kind of help form this out just by using this center here. And we can bring this all in. So not too much, just a little bit. And we can also do kind of more of a squish inside, just to give it some variations. And we can also go in here and hit the Alt key here, and Alt key here. And now that we got that all selected, we can go in and just start adding another bevel. So I'll just go down, add a bevel. And again, in here, I'm going to really bring this down quite a bit. And I just want to, just like it is, just to kind of give it some spacing. And hit OK. All right, cool. And yeah, that gives it an interesting shape inside. Simple, right? And yeah, that's it for that. And then we can continue. So let's make this work. Yeah, one thing we're going to do is we're going to do one more deform, which would be an added smooth. So we could see what this is going to look like once we do that, right? So let's click it. And there we go. It's nice and very smooth now. And you see down here in the bottom, we're going about 19,000 polys with everything, and then I'm going to be adding in this other thing. So anyway, it's a little bit up there, but again, you don't have to do the second smooth if you don't want to. So we could undo that. And this is a lot lower. And that's like 12,000. So again, depends what you want to create. I mean, we can even go a little bit lower than this, just adding in some more deformations, but depends, again, how close this object is going to be to people and whatever you're trying to create. But anyway, this is a fun form, so let's continue. Okay, so earlier on, we created an extra disk, right? So let's go ahead and take this now and bring this back out into the open, because we're going to start working this. I want to make sure that I'm on this one and not on this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and start working this. Right. So let's go ahead and select now and hide the other part. And we're going to select the disk here. Okay, so here we go. So we got the disk selected on top, and we're going to select the bottom. And now we're going to go in and kind of adjust this. So we're going to go over to the section here and do an inset. And we're going to take both of these now and inset both of them inward, just like that. Okay. Make sure it actually took. So click on it. Once you click on it, it does the insert. And same with the bottom here. Click on it. There we go. I'm just adding that little extra detail. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and select this line. So go to selection mode. Again, go to selection and hit the line. Hit the Alt key. And then we're going to actually bring this thing down. So hit the arrow and bring it downward. Just to give it a nice little form. Just like that. Cool. So now I'm going to select that line and this line as well. So hit the Alt key. And again, we're going to go down to the bevel under selected. And we're going to bring that in, and just using 2, again, not a lot, just to add a little bit of extra smoothness to the edges. And again, I'm going to select the bottom here, and again, bevel, and again, bring this down a little bit. Same thing as before, 2, hit OK. Now we can select the top here, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to smart extrude this thing. So smart extrude. And we're going to bring this straight down into the space. There we go. And again, we're going back to selection mode. And we're going to pull in the center here and kind of just create our own bevel. So we're going to pull this in just like that. All right, cool. So now we're going to select this inner piece again. And we're going to actually do an inset into this one. So the inset will be there. And we could now go in and kind of move this in as well. So smart extrude, and again, into the space. Not too much, about there. Cool. And again, back to the selection mode. And we could also bring this in to give it a little bit more detail. And again, selection mode. And we can now select out of this and kind of select this section here. Double click it, or Alt key. And let's do that again. Let's go to bevel. Again, we're going to control this down a little bit, bring it in, keep 2, and hit OK. And for some reason that didn't work out, so let's go and select it again, inset, and there we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and split this. So let's add split, and we're going to go down the center of these 2 sections here and split it. This is just a real easy way to start working this. So we can go from there to there. Okay, so one thing that's difficult to do is when you try to split this, you can't really split, like from edge to edge, because it just doesn't take. You need to do like one edge to another edge type thing. So I suggest just going straight up with it. Actually, just the best way to do is kind of just get it straight and kind of get, straight on and just click on it, right? And then we can go back here and do this again and then escape. And this is just an easy way to kind of add that exact location. And then we can go back in and start splitting more of this up. So we can escape. Let's go and select again. And to now make this right, we can go in and just select the actual, we can add in some more lines to this by just splitting them. So let's split this. So I'm going to go, basically we got one here, right? We can just go, either way, it doesn't really matter, but we can just do something like this. Right? Escape. We can go from here to here. Escape. So escape. And then we got our 4. Then we can go from here to here. And then from here to there. And escape. Now we can go in and select these center sections here and just delete them. And delete this one. And there we go. Now we got all 4-point polys. It's a real simple way to do that. Okay, let's continue. All right, so now everything is 4 points and it's perfectly aligned. And yeah, that's how we get everything is actually 4-point polys. And we can do the smooth here and see what that looks like. And I'm going to do it one more time. I think that came out really nice. Has a nice form to it. Now we can hide the other piece. And we're going to align this perfectly into the space. So we can take this, we can center it, and we can just scale this up right till we get to the edge of this unit. Something like that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for creating this shape. So I got my model selected now. I'm happy with everything. I'm going to go now and go to the bake section here, and let's go ahead, bake with normal mapping per pixel. So select this, and we're just going to go with the standard settings, whatever they give us, and hit OK. And I'm going to be good with everything here. Just leave it as is, and also hit OK. All right, take a second to go through this process. All right, so it finished its process, and it comes up with this sign. Just hit OK. And we'll go with this basically. So I can just get rid of these things here. I don't need these extra layers. There's no reason for these. And then I go back now into the painting section, and here we go. So we got our section here. Now, if you don't have your UV map showing here, you can go to the Windows. We just reset this page to default, and there we go. And now that we got this, we can go in and just start texturing this. Let's go ahead and hit Edit first. And I'm going to go to Layers. Now, I would also suggest that we can go in here now, just kind of use the Fill tool. And we can also use this and bring it down. We kind of see how this all is working. So let's go ahead now and do the edit and go to occlusion and just go with the standard settings here. And it creates a nice darker area within your image. And then I'm going to go back in here and do the same thing here with the curvature as well. And this one I'm going to use sphere and hemisphere and keep everything the way it is. Hit OK. All right, cool. So now it kind of shows you the whole object. For a second there, it did. So if I want to unhide this, you see it kind of shows everything. And this is all part of your UV mapping. It looks like everything is covered, so that's good. So we can go down here, just add a new layer, and we could hide this. All right, cool. So now that we've done all that, we go into here, into the section. This is like your location for all your actual textures. I'm just going to go select a metal. Now, you guys should all have a different type of metal texture, and just use whatever you can find. And when you get into metals, I'm going to go with something that's dark, something like the dark gun old or dark metal gray. I'm just going to go with maybe this one, metal gun. So let's go with that. This is kind of what's going to look like when I create this. The image that I showed is a little different than what I have here, but that's okay. Again, just trying to give you guys some ideas of how to create this stuff. So now one thing we can do is we can zoom in on this to kind of get the texture to be smaller or more bigger, depending on what you're seeing here. It's kind of like the zooming in of that image onto this. And I'm good with that. One thing I'm going to do is go here and hide this disk. I don't want to affect this. And so with the fill, we get like a very light color. It's like, let's actually not use this, but use the brush and select it right. When you do a fill, it kind of gives a very light color. If you go back in and use the brush, and you can kind of go in here with a really big brush, you just click on it. And what it does, it actually makes it actually much darker and gives you a little bit more of the coloration. Sometimes it gives you the same, but it just depends on what you're doing. So I'm good with this for now. And this is a real simple part of the texturing. I'm not going to go over a lot in the texturing mode. I just want to show you kind of options. So now if I go in here and I can hide this one, I can go back now and get another texture. And let's go and select something that looks really nice. So I'm going to go down to something like this. And you can bring this over here. And you see kind of, again, it's kind of blurry. I want to get that texture looking really sharp. So I'm going to bring it up like that. See how now the clarity of that. And again, just hit the brush here. See how sometimes you got to just get around it, right? There we go. Now it's nice and clean. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that. So now we can go back in here now and unhide this. And there we go. It's very simple to do. Sometimes you get some weird anomalies going on, but we can fix that as we go. All right, so now that we've gotten all this together, the best thing to do is we export this out to something else, or we can just render it inside the actual, program itself. We can go to render mode over here, And you could add lights or whatever you want here and just hit the render. And make sure it goes to someplace where you want it, of course. I'm just going to do here test and put this on my desktop and hit OK, save. And it goes through the process to create the actual texture. And once it's done, that's it. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you like this, subscribe. Thumbs up would be appreciated. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day.